everyone, Teamudf here once more in Cyrodiil as we celebrate my 2500th video. 2,500 times I have gone insane on this channel thanks to you guys. I would not have made it this far without you. If I did not think I was, doing anything significant, I would have stopped ages ago. So, we've had quite a fun time here in Cyrodiil and a whole bunch of other lands on Teamudf Gaming. First of all, before we begin the celebration today, besides thanking everyone, of course, I want to point out that the clip show did not work out. I have no clue how I made the 1000 clip show work. I looked at Camtasia, it said the files were MP4, but for some reason I'm just not able to make MP4 work on this occasion, so I don't know. We're kind of screwed on the clip show. So hopefully you guys will find this a viable substitute. What we're going to do is for 2,500 videos, we're going to do 25 Tales from Cyrodiil Trivia Facts. There's really a whole bunch more than that, but we'll say 25 main topics to make it look kind of clever and stuff with the video title. Anyway, fourth wall breaking aside, what we'll be doing is we'll be reading stuff. I'll be talking about previous ideas you may yet see in the future, things that might have been canceled. We might talk about the voice actors, some similarities between these Tales characters and other characters that I've written in the past and maybe will write in the future. Some Tales universe stuff, perhaps. So it's just a whole bunch of random trivia to look forward to. I guess let's go ahead and get started. We might not always be in-game. I might drop out of the game for a minute or two to, read you something, because I have some previous plans and stuff that I want to read you, or maybe I'll show you some art or something. I don't know. We're just going to do it. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. We all know how lazy I am with editing, so I might as well just make this first one in the same segment. Therefore, topic number 1! Why did I do this in the first place? Why bother with all the hassle? Why do any of this? Why make these series? Why did I decide to do Tales from Cyrodiil? Admittedly, I was a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z as a kid. I enjoyed the fact that Dragon Ball Z, that while its fights and its pacing seemed to be a little wonky at times, some of these fights just taking way too long and they don't really get to a point anytime quickly. It was still one of my favorite things to watch as a kid because you had these super amazing characters that could fight each other. They have all these amazing attacks, but at the same time they're not serious 100% of the time. They have these comedic moments, these very silly moments, and it doesn't even seem forced. It doesn't seem like some of those modern day anime where they try to be everything. Ugh! They want to be the jokesters and they want to be the super serious thing at the same time, but that doesn't always work. So I looked at this and I said, wow, you know, I kind of like writing stories about fighting and half comedic things and whatever, so I play Oblivion a lot. Why don't I try to make some kind of series in Oblivion like that? And of course, we'll make it goofy enough to where hopefully people don't think I'm trying way too hard. That's why I poke fun at myself during the series. I make the cameraman jokes and just a whole bunch of these fourth wall jokes. I don't know. So, yes, I also thought it was a great opportunity to just kind of learn some advanced editing, air quotes on the word advanced, because as you can see, Tales from Cyrodiil is not a 5-star production as far as editing is concerned. If anything, it may not even be worth 1 star. I don't know, but I certainly try to give you guys something it looks half decent as a final product. I don't know. But yeah, so that was kind of how Tales came to be. I also had just a lot of unused ideas from things. I had written a lot of Zelda stories as a kid, kind of a teenager in high school, I guess not really a kid, and I just kind of wanted to use some of them. So I ended up using some of them in my Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, and the ones that were left unused, I decided, well, why don't I turn this into some kind of series involving the Oblivion universe, and we'll have custom characters and things, and so we did. So, Tales from Cyrodiil was born, but you might be interested to know that Tales from Cyrodiil definitely did not look like what it does now. It went through quite a few changes. In fact, the reason I started here is no coincidence, near way on the bridge to the Imperial City here. My starting point here is of no coincidence because for you guys, this bridge probably denotes the area where Zelos and Kajido had their battle and Ango made himself known. Threatened to destroy Kajido unless he hosts Vath Zervi's tournament. Well, for me, while that all may be true, this is the start of something that I'd like to call dirty money. So here we are in familiar Talos Plaza of the Imperial City as we talk about the very first potential skit that I was going to do in Oblivion called Dirty Money. Of course, it actually did star Zelos Phoenix, even though Tails had not been established yet, and Kajido himself would have been the villain as well. Same attire, same weaponry and everything. Actually, I think that's a lie. I don't think I had the Hello Kitty sword way back then. I don't know why I still have the Hello Kitty sword in the first place, but details, I suppose. So Dirty Money would have taken place in a very foggy, vacant Imperial City. I was going to have to, like, disable every NPC in the Imperial City to make this work. The plot is that Zelos is just some nameless samurai walking into town. And as he gets to the Imperial City, he happens to notice that there's like, nobody around. Well, it turns out that Kajido and his gang of assassins have taken over the city, and they've completely wiped everyone out. There's literally no one left in the Imperial City. But Kajido knows Zelos from the past, and he has hired a bunch of assassins to try to take care of Zelos, and in doing so has killed the entire Imperial City. So Kajido basically baits Zelos into the Imperial City, and one by one, he sends assassins to try and kill Zelos. Now, during this film, Zelos would not have spoken once, actually. I did not give Zelos any written lines at all. Kajido, I think, would have been the only one with lines. It might have even been a silent film. I'm trying to remember for sure now. But the idea was either Kajido's the only one that speaks, or it was a silent film. And one by one, these assassins come at Zelos Phoenix, but he's just able to defeat them. Until there are only two assassins who remain. And they're basically looking at each other like, well, gee, this guy has wiped out all our friends. Chances are he's going to do the same to us. So instead of going to fight Zelos, they it seems as though they're going to 2v1 him, but then they just kind of start running away from him, so Zelos begins chasing them through the alleyways. And sure enough, it turns out that these two assassins would lead Zelos Phoenix right through an alleyway and right to the hideout of one Kajido Nolan. Therefore, the final two assassins betraying Kajido, and Zelos would kill Kajido, and that would be the end of it. So Kajido was a one-shot villain at one point. He was just going to be some random guy calling out hits on Zelos Phoenix, and Zelos kills him, and that's the end of it. That would have been the whole rivalry. It's just this one, 30-minute film called Dirty Money. The Dirty Money obviously signifying what the assassins would have been paid if Zelos was killed. But yeah, so things have drastically changed, of course. Zelos would have murdered Kajido in this film. So that's my original thought of when I think of, what was the oldest skit I was going to do in Oblivion, was this Dirty Money stuff. So then you might say, well, how did it turn into Tales from Cyrodiil then? Because obviously it had to go through some really ridiculous change, and of course it did. So, let us go ahead and talk about the thing that I used to call Project Oblivion. Alright, we're going to exit the game here so I can read you some stuff in a bit, because to talk about the original Tales from Cyrodiil, I have to actually talk about something called Project Oblivion, where I was actually going to make a mod myself called Yori's Ways, and we'll actually save that for a segment later in the show. But before Yori's Ways even, I just had a whole bunch of skits that I wanted to do, the first of which I called Dark Uprising. It was actually going to star Vath Zerves, who we now know to be the I guess the listener of the Dark Brotherhood. I have him playing now. He seems to be the leader of the Dark Brotherhood. But before that, he was actually going to be a Sith Lord. That's right, by Sith Lord, I of course mean Star Wars. I was a fan of Star Wars as far back as I can remember. I played with, all the figures, all the toys and everything. Even some of the Lego crap I had. I had all the video games. Shadows of the Empire was one of my favorite N64 games of all time, so I just really loved Star Wars as a kid. Around the time I started getting into Oblivion modding, I had also stumbled upon, on YouTube and other websites as well, all these kind of fan-made, films involving Star Wars. Like, people were making their own really high-tech lightsaber battles, and some people were just making stories up and things. Some had a combination of both, and I'm like, wow, I don't really have the technology or the editing know-how to do that in real life, so why don't I do some of that in Oblivion? So I started scouring the Nexus for Star Wars mods, and sure enough, I found a mod that replaced all those sword sounds with lightsaber sounds, and I found some lightsaber models. So I decided, hey, dang, I can make like Star Wars skits and everything. So this Dark Uprising skit starring Vath would have seen a new rise in the Sith era. Vath is the current Sith Lord. I didn't have this taking any place any particular time in the Star Wars timeline because I don't know too much about that, sadly. As much of a fan as I am of the series, I don't know much about the timeline and things outside the movies. So Vath needs a new Sith apprentice, you see. So, alongside Vath, he needed a new apprentice. So we have these 5 Sith assassins named Raziel, Nika, Koro, Naga, and Miro. And they were going to fight beside Vath, and eventually one of them would be crowned the Sith apprentice and be under Vath's wing. So originally Vath just basically has these guys doing random tasks and things, like going up against the good guys and maybe like stealing things here and there for the Sith Lord, and just kind of making sure that peace is maintained as far as the Sith Lord is concerned. However, eventually it becomes a little strange, and the assassins kind of start talking with each other. And as the series goes on, they slowly realize that Vath doesn't really seem to have any favorites yet, despite like all these tasks that they've done for him and everything. And they're all working together, and they just don't get it. And finally, so they eventually figure out that basically 4 of them have to die, and the one remaining will become the Sith apprentice under Vath. And this completely shatters the partnership between the 5. And they spend the rest of the series completely paranoid of each other, looking over each other's shoulders. I would have had one of them just completely freak out and start murdering the other 4. So he would have been like the villain of villains for the series, I suppose. I can't remember if it was Raziel, though, that I was going to have perform this job, or maybe Koro. Mainly because I don't remember who was going to win under this name set. So Vath's 5 Sith apprentices, to be, I guess, start offing each other. 2 of them are going to fall in love, have like a love interest story and going on and stuff. But then, of course, they end up being the final 2 because they team up against the guy who's killing everyone and off him. But then Vath walks in and basically says, okay, only one of you can truly be my apprentice and you figured it out, so you better decide now or I'm just going to kill both of you, and this whole thing was a gigantic waste of time. The plot twist then being that the guy kills the girl despite all the love interest stuff and everything. I think I was going to go with that method. So Vath has his new apprentice, and then in a later skit or something, we would have reintroduced the character as the Sith apprentice, and we would have seen like some good guys and started an actual story and stuff. But that's how it was going to start, is with this this kind of murder game between 5 potential Sith apprentices, and finally one of them betrays their lover and stands tall among all the rest. Probably finally to get his comeuppance by one of the good guys later on, but I never planned too far ahead for this, and the Star Wars skit series kind of died pretty early. I actually remember I had a neat idea where the Sith apprentice who betrayed the love interest and became the Sith apprentice. I know it's kind of hard to keep track of this because I don't have specific names, but yeah. So the guy who won, basically, eventually when he gets beat by the hero, shows up in like the next movie, and his new base is that, anyone remember that Bravil's Sea Domes mod? I was going to have him hide out there and try to start a new rebellion against the rebels and stuff, for lack of better English. So yeah, that was my Star Wars-esque skit idea, the Dark Uprising. Let's see. I did eventually change the Dark Uprising to just an Oblivion thing. Here was the opening paragraph that I had for this idea, I guess. It is a time of peace in Cyrodiil. With the dastardly Oblivion gates closed, the public can once again rest easy, knowing that Blaine Phoenix, yeah, we'll talk about that in just a bit, their champion, has saved them from the creatures that dwell within the demonic realm, along with his wife Christy, and their children Emily, Jason, and Jennifer. He hopes to aid in restoring total order in Martin's new empire. However, with the vanquishing of a villain gives rise to another. Having been freed of suspicion of former Emperor Uriel's murder, the Dark Brotherhood has been allowed to grow and slither across the land of Cyrodiil virtually undetected. Vath, the current listener, has been bringing Sithis' orders and followers together, hidden within numerous sanctuaries across the land. His true aim is yet to be revealed, but it can be wagered it will not be for the goodwill of Cyrodiil. That was basically my little intro to this Oblivion version of Dark Uprising. And it was basically the same idea. He was going to have the 5 assassins trying to become the, I think it was the silencer of the Dark Brotherhood? No, one of the speakers. It was trying to become the 4th speaker of the Dark Brotherhood. That's right, because the hand thing. So we had Arquin, Engo, and Zin, for those of you who follow my Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff and would know that name, as 3 speakers. And one of these 5 assassins would basically become the 4th speaker between Raziel, Nika, Koro, Naga, and Miro. So yeah, Blaine Phoenix. What was all that about? Well, let's continue on toward the next segment of Project Oblivion to find out. Okay, so what's going on? Well, who's this Blaine Phoenix guy? Well, this is the original setup for Tales from Cyrodiil. I actually have... I managed to stumble upon, like, right before doing this video, a list of characters and factions, character descriptions, and backstories that I was going to use for the original Tales from Cyrodiil. So here's how this would have went. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of go through and read this. Okay, heroes. Blaine Phoenix. Now, I actually do have a very short origin story for the name Blaine, is that it was almost my first name in real life. My parents almost named me Blaine. They did not, though. So, in light of that, I'm kind of known for naming main characters of some of my series Blaine. Actually, in this case, Blaine Phoenix ended up going on to be my Yu-Gi-Oh! Destiny's Horizon main character. So let's see who this guy is. Alright. Blaine Phoenix, the main hero and, when the story starts, the champion of High Rock, for those of you who remember that mod. He is in line to be the next king of High Rock as long as he retains his championship until the king's death. However, the conspiracy of Ramirez... So I mentioned this character Ramirez in this paragraph, and for the life of me, I can't remember who this is or what he's supposed to do, because I scroll through this list and there's no mention of this character anywhere else. I can only assume that it's like some kind of rival or something. So, a conspiracy of Ramirez leaves Blaine exiled from High Rock. He vows to train and return to High Rock in order to defeat Ramirez, freeing High Rock from the tyrant. Christy Corrigan, another name that went toward Yu-Gi-Oh! Destiny's Horizon when I wrote that. The love interest of Blaine Phoenix, Christy follows Blaine after he is exiled from High Rock. She remains hidden until Blaine reaches the Imperial City, where muggers draw her out at nighttime as she tries to conceal herself. Blaine saves her, and the two eventually get together, so I guess I didn't really have any good ideas there. Villains! This is where it kind of gets fun. Rashid Zanamor was this guy's name. Rashid Zanamor. Oh boy. The founder of the Eye faction, as in like an eyeball. The founder of the Eye faction, when he stumbles upon the ancient dark praying grounds of Moriaris. He dubs it the City of the Dead, and opens it to start a faction of necromancers. Eventually, he grows bored of ruling the underworld, promoting several of his more promising students to leaders of the Eye to expand its operation. Rashid is led by the power that Moriaris offers to necromancers, and it leaves him with desires of ruling over all of Cyrodiil. However, the detail he leaves out is that he is messing with an eerie combination of Ayleid and Daedric power. This makes Moriaris an extremely dangerous location, but Rashid continues to wager his life and his entire faction's safety by controlling it. Little by little, Rashid becomes more possessed and obsessed by the power and the control it offers. Boy, I was not good at writing these descriptions. There's a lot of redundancy here. Alright, Kajido Nolan. A childhood friend of Blaine Phoenix, who was gravely injured in the training process for Knights of Castle High Rock. Mistakenly, Kajido was forgotten, and he wandered off with great hatred, blaming Blaine's success for his abandonment. Eventually, Kajido is picked up by Rashid and inducted into the Eye. Kajido's blatant craze and rage leave him as a necromancer genius in Rashid's eyes. Kajido is quickly promoted up the roster and is soon made a leader of the Eye. When Kajido realizes that his operations are close to Blaine, he decides to remain at Hoarfrost Castle and hunt him down to get his revenge. So quite a few older mods showing up here, like Moriaris, City of the Dead, Castle High Rock, and Hoarfrost Castle. Dusk Vale. A lonely girl who was left for dead after the Dark Brotherhood murdered her family. One night when she is walking in the forest, a Dark Brotherhood squadron ambushes some Eye necromancers. She remains in hiding, but when she recognizes one of the Dark Brotherhood members as a man who killed her family, she flips out and knifes the man to death while everybody watches with surprise. Rashid approaches Dusk and offers her the potential of the Eye and revenge. Dusk accepts, being molded into a leader of the Eye. Her group drives the Dark Brotherhood out of Aaron Mathy, which she then makes as her trophy. Dusk becomes a possessed... Did I really write this? I should have read this beforehand. Okay, then. Sure, why not? We'll read it. Dusk becomes a possessed dominatrix-like individual, always demanding her way and kidnapping those who get in her way to torture them. I see, past self. I see. Alright then, I guess even I can surprise myself after time passes. Seeker Slater. A convicted felon of attempted murder against a council member. Seeker's raw power and thick armor catches Rashid's eye, even though he is usually only intrigued by dark, shady characters. Through a test, Seeker proves himself to be a worthy necromancer and fighter, gaining the position of leader of the Eye. And I guess that's all I had for him. So, those are the original characters that I had in mind for this little Project Oblivion thing. So what happened then after it did in fact become Tales from Cyrodiil? And I sadly don't have like a timeline of when I morphed it into Tales that we know and love now, so I can't give you much trivia there. But I can give you some of the original ideas, maybe some things that were cancelled, some things to look forward to. So let's go. Who were the original Nefarious thugs? Anyone recognize this place? It's called Avalon. It is buried under Frost Crag Reborn. But before that, now someone can correct me if I have my history wrong here. I believe that part of this mod was originally like a sky castle. I remember, in fact, because I downloaded the demo. I just don't remember my history fully. There was this unfinished mod, as far as I was concerned, called a sky castle, and I was going to finish it myself and give it to Cyrodiil. So some people might remember me working on a second mod after Yori's Ways. It was going to be this thing here, so that I could like give it to Cyrodiil and his new cohorts, the Nefarious thugs. Yes, but they're not the Nefarious thugs you know now. In fact, I don't even think their names were Sean and Hunter. In fact, they were going to be super serious sidekick characters who actually had a chance to defeat Zelos Phoenix. In fact, on one occasion they would have defeated Zelos Phoenix, and banished Zelos, Shivan, and them to this underground land of Avalon. Then, Zelos and them would have had to have climbed back to the top of the Sky Castle, defeat the Nefarious thugs, and face off with Cyrodiil once and for all. The unfinished mod was kind of like an open resource as far as I remember, but what happened is, I turned out not to use it because I found something that was much better in this, like, Avalon thing that was under Frost Crag Reborn. So by like stumbling upon the Sky Castle mod, I actually found Frost Crag Reborn and decided to go from there. In fact, it was Avalon then that when I did my Frost Crag Reborn LP series that I ended up getting another idea for Tales from Cyrodiil that actually I will be using. It just hasn't been used yet. Some of you might remember at the very bottom of this thing. I'm not going to look around because look at all these freaking doors. I don't remember where anything's at all in this Avalon place. But there was a very famous villain at the bottom that some of you might remember my fight with. His name was Tyrus. And he pretty soundly defeated us the first time. And so Zelos came back with some better armor. Matrix Armor Evolution. So, what happened in that Frost Crag Reborn series is that I went all the way back up here to Ancient Towers. I grabbed me my ruby armor, and I went back down to destroy Tyrus, and it was a pretty epic matchup for back then, so I don't know, if you're bored and want to go watch a fight, there you go. So what this ended up doing is I said, dang, when I do this like Tales from Cyrodiil series, I could do something like pretty epic where the characters have this like special armor that they can wear, and they kind of level up in a sense. I made Digivolution jokes and Digimon jokes way back when, but I actually had an idea where I could make this some fancy concept called like Matrix Armor Evolution, where the character has to put on special armor and they are stronger or they can last longer in battle or whatever. A bunch of anime and cartoons have like the characters can power up and stuff. Like to go back to the Dragon Ball Z idea, you know, they had like Super Saiyans. They could transform into Super Saiyans and their power level would vastly increase. That would be kind of the idea here with this Matrix armor evolution. It's also another Digimon reference, really, as far as Digivolution is concerned, because I believe in the Japanese version of Digimon, they just call it evolution. They don't call it Digivolution. And in fact, one of their concepts in the Japanese anime, I believe, is actually called Matrix Evolution, so I don't know, Matrix Armor Evolution, not my most creative idea, but I thought it would be kind of neat, and in fact, you guys will see this, assuming Tails gets that far enough. If not, you'll see it in Tails' universe. It'll get there one way or the other. But yeah, so let's see. I think I have the Eternal Armor hiding in here. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, this is supposed to be Kajido's Matrix Armor Evolution, is where he basically looks like a Templar. The only thing I hated about this, though, is that you couldn't really distinguish him between, like, any regular Mythic Dawn Templar, so I don't know if I want a better, like, level-up armor for Kajido Nolan, or if I'll just keep the Templar armor. But yeah, Ruby armor is definitely Zelos' kind of level-up armor there. So eventually, you better freaking see Templar Kajido. Oh yeah, this made my hands invisible, I remember now. So eventually, you should hopefully be seeing Templar Kajido versus Ruby Armor Zelos at some point, I don't know. Matrix Armor Evolution. Alright, so in these next segments we'll be talking about things that might have changed or just completely morphed or had to be cancelled outright in our good land of Tales from Cyrodiil. The first thing let's talk about is our good friend Benji here. The man who constantly seeks ice cream and almost never gets it. I think he got it once in Tales 2, but other than that, he never got his ice cream. So, some of you may remember in Tales Episode 1 and 2, because he didn't show up in 3, in Tales 1 and 2, Benji had a completely different model. In fact, some of you cleverly pointed out that, whoops, Benji had a female model originally, even though he was supposed to be a guy. I guess to add to the hilarity is that Tyron has always kind of sounded like a woman, but he was supposed to be a man, whereas Benji looked like a woman when he was supposed to be a man, so poor decision-making on Teamudf's part, but what happened to the original model is I have no idea what happened to this original model, actually. Probably not what you were expecting, but I actually do not know where this model went. In fact, this got so bad that I almost completely lost the archaeologist robe from the Lost Spires that Benji wears. I can't remember where the staff is from. I think it's from... I don't know, actually. Might be from that Armory of the Silver Dragon mod or something. But yeah, so Benji's original orc model one day was just gone. I don't know if it vanished because of a mod I uninstalled or what, but he vanished, and so I had to hunt down another orc model, and this was the first one I stumbled upon, and he just became the new Benji. So that entire thing in Tales 4 and 9 about, like, the whole joke of Benji changing his look to become more feared and everything, and the tan and muscles and all that thing, it was by complete mistake, because I just completely lost the original model for some reason. Cancelled Tales specials and episodes. I'll save this segment for, like, some of the smaller things that I decided to cancel, and we'll give some of the bigger things their own segments. So, like, a couple of the smaller episodes I canceled was a Saving Christmas episode, where Kajido wanted to steal presents for Christmas. A very cookie-cutter story here, so don't expect to be blown away or anything. Zelos and company arrived to stop him. I actually had Shivan's voice actress do some lines for this, and I didn't get to it in time. I can't remember if this was 2011 Christmas, maybe? Actually, what's up there? This was in the 2011 Christmas, I think, going into 2012 that I was going to do this. And so, yeah, I just really never got back around to it, so good for me. I'm really great at what I do. It's a short story here. Okay. Another very short... I have no idea what this is. What the flid. Another short idea that I had was an episode called Cleon and Captain Blue Go to Europe. Very aptly named, very lazily named. Wish I knew what this was. Anyway, Cleon and Captain Blue go to Europe. It's going to be a short skit involving Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses, because you see, Cleon and Captain Blue are idiots, and they cannot do anything correctly. So in fact, when they do try to go to Europe, they actually go through a time machine, and they end up in the wrong time. They basically end up in the period where the War of the Roses is going on. And in fact, they duel each other in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Match where Captain Blue uses Catapult Turtle, going to be very lazy writing here. It was going to be one of those, oh man, you're going to launch the catapult at his castle or whatever. Kind of that whole thing there. Jeez, what is this? It's missing textures and meshes, whatever it is. So yes, those are the minor episodes. Now let's talk about some of the major episodes and movies that were canceled. Well, some of you might remember our good friend Elsweyr. In fact, there was a good mod called Elsweyr, the Deserts of... I don't remember the name. All I remember is that I did the series review and a bunch of people crapped on it because I spoke, I guess. I don't know. YouTube, go figure. Anyway, so I was going to do an Elsweyr movie. I know I alluded to this before. In fact, that was the whole reason I did the Elsweyr mod, is so I could look around and see if it was as finished as I wanted. Sadly, it ended up not being as, like, flushed out as I thought it was. So I ended up canceling the project, but I ended up canceling it for a couple other reasons as well. Mainly time was one of them at that point, because I had too much going on at school at that time. English. So in any case, the plot of this one was going to be that Cyrodiil is approached by a stranger who claims that he can help Cyrodiil defeat Zelos Phoenix. All they have to do is invite Zelos and his friends to a fake dinner banquet, and Elsweyr corner them and kill them. Cyrodiil, being the blind idiot that he is, says, okay, great, let's go do this. This sounds like a good idea. And it turned out to not be a good idea. So first of all, Zelos and company would meet Cyrodiil and them in Elsweyr. I had like a banquet hall in mind, or a castle or something. I don't know where they would have met, but so after this, it is revealed that in fact they've all been tricked. Both sides have been completely fooled. And the person who has called them all to the dinner is the Armor of Malevolence from the Malevolent mod. Made by the same guy who did Ruined Tales, Hood, and, of course, Tears of the Fiend. So the Armor of Malevolence was going to make a return. The motivation for the Armor of Malevolence here basically being that Cyrodiil abandoned him in the past. For those of you who didn't see my mod review, Cyrodiil, I played that mod as Cyrodiil, tried to be a villain, and I screwed up and I got the neutral path, but we'll pretend I didn't do that last part and screw up. So in any case, the Armor of Malevolence was going to seek revenge on Cyrodiil. And at the same time, he gets a bonus in killing Zelos, because remember that Zelos is traveling with the likes of Alicia Echothorn and Cleon the Butcher of Armandale, who the Armor of Malevolence is also involved with. They were also part of that series. I don't remember to what degree, so I was probably going to mess with the mod canon a bit, but that's what I do, so don't expect this to be any glorious work of art or anything. So the Armor of Malevolence starts to basically attack them all in this castle, and they have to escape. The Nefarious thugs would have gotten into a battle with Cleon and Captain Blue, and that would have been that. Some things I had planned for this was a rap battle between Zelos and the Armor of Malevolence. I even still somewhat remember some of the lines for this rap that I'm not going to do now, because I would feel way too silly doing it. I will maybe do it on a stream or something, where I do not feel as silly. I know that makes no sense, but let's just roll with it, because I am indeed Teamudf. The other, main problem I had with doing this movie is that the voice I had for the Armor of Malevolence seemed way too similar to the Captain Blue voice, and I couldn't get it out of my head. So, I would have been doing this movie with these voices, and it would have sounded like the same voice to me, so I could never come up with another voice for the Armor of Malevolence. The Elsweyr mod wasn't as completed as I thought it was, and just time constraints, so it never happened. Had it happened, I had an interesting thing for Season 2 of Tales, where the Armor of Malevolence would have returned yet again, this time in the Imperial City. Benji's basically taking care of some meager task for Cyrodiil and stumbles upon the Armor of Malevolence, accidentally putting it on, so that the Armor of Malevolence comes back to life and takes over Benji. So then Benji, as the Armor of Malevolence, would have basically betrayed Cyrodiil and kicked him out of the palace, leaving Cyrodiil with nowhere to turn but, you guessed it, Zelos Phoenix and friends. So Zelos then has no choice but to go into the Imperial City to get rid of the Armor of Malevolence again. However, in attempting to do so, the Armor of Malevolence would take over Captain Blue, and you would have gotten to see a very creepy murderer version of Captain Blue as the Armor of Malevolence took him over. So that would have been kind of strange, especially because of the voice thing. So this would have been all kinds of screwed up, but I think it could have been a fun plot point had I just I don't know, if I had time to do it. That's basically what a lot of these were, is if I just had the freaking time, I would have been able to do it. So yes, that is the Elsweyr movie. Now let's go back to our friends in the mountains here. Go to Frostcrag. No, let's not go to Frostcrag. What am I thinking of? The Blade's house. Why can't I think of the... No. Cloud Ruler. Jeez, man. Well, here we are at Cloud Ruler to talk about Wrath of Dawn. Oh. I guess it really is Wrath of Dawn. Whoa, this is going on. Originally... Some of you might actually realize the irony in this video now, is that the 1000th video was originally supposed to be a Tales from Cyrodiil movie, and it became the clip show. The 2500th video was supposed to be a clip show, and it became a Tales from Cyrodiil thing, so congratulations to me on completing that. Anyway, Wrath of Dawn, having nothing to do with the Mythic Dawn, incidentally, dealt with the origin story between Zelos, Kajido, and why they hate each other. Like, why were these two characters so engaged in each other's murder? Because a lot of people had asked me at that point, back when, like, I was still popular and stuff, people were actually very interested in why Zelos and Kajido had the same face, why they're fighting in the first place, and just why any of that had to transpire. Well, what this movie would have attempted to do is give you a very extensive look into the past of Zelos Phoenix before he was... Oh, these guys are after me, aren't they? Well, for Flid's sake. Give you an extensive look into the past of Zelos Phoenix, as well as Kajido Nolan himself. I also had some older characters in there to illustrate just kind of the time change. As an example of a few names here, we had characters named Kari, Duke Gallagher, and Kenzo. And for those of you who know those three names, yes, those are indeed the names of three people that appeared in my AU game for Zelda Classic. But originally they were meant to be part of this, like, Akaviri village that had to end up taking place in Cloud Ruler, because the mod that I originally wanted to use for this was called Akaviri Kojima, which, while it worked some of the time, I could never personally get it to work on my computer. It would always crash, and things would break. So I was unable to do this movie idea mainly because of that, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. So, Zelos was originally part of an Akaviri village that I wanted to illustrate in this movie, Wrath of Dawn. And I'm like scatterbrained on this one because there's so much to talk about. So what was going on here is the premise was like too complex. So I had to introduce Zelos as a character since this was the past. The main story was like a group of warriors being drawn to the dark side by an alien character. I think Rashid was going to be the villain in this movie as well. So that Rashid guy that I mentioned earlier. In the meantime, Zelos is trying to like befriend everyone and get in good graces with this Akaviri clan because he's a samurai as well, so he might as well get to know them. He of course has the love interest in Kari because he hasn't met Shivan Snow yet. And the villain is trying to recruit people so that he can revive this legendary demon. But the Imperial Guard is onto it, and they're trying to take down the villain. But they mistakenly believe that it's the Akaviri who are doing this, so the Imperial Guard are attacking the Akaviri instead, which leads to Zelos joining the Akaviri and starting a revolt. They get overwhelmed, though. The villain comes in to do his thing. Zelos gets into a fight with the main villain and offs him. And then at the end of the movie, Kajido realizes his destiny. You notice I do not mention Kajido anywhere else in the plot. If you're clever enough, maybe you can figure out what's going on there, but, yeah, there was just way too much going on for this to fit into like a 30-minute movie, which is what I wanted. So the point was that it was in fact a Zelos origin story, and it does explain successfully why Zelos and Kajido hate each other, but there's just too much additional crap going on that I just bogged it down so much, and I was completely unable to do it. So between like Akaviri Kojima not working rather, it was again kind of a time constraint thing. It got to the point where, again, kind of like how I'm doing this video now for the 2500th video, instead of trying to figure out how the clip show would work in like a really ridiculous sense, That's kind of how I decided to abandon the movie, Wrath of Dawn, in favor of the clip show for the 1000th videos. There was not going to be enough time to do this in a timely fashion, and I didn't want to make you guys wait for the 1000th video, so I did the clip show instead. So I don't know, a lot of confusing stuff there, I know, probably. Like I said, Kari, Duke, and Kenzo, they ended up in my AU Zelda Classic stuff instead. I also don't think I had the skills I needed to pull off a movie like that in the past, because what I also wanted to do is I downloaded like a bunch of resource mods that had Japanese things like pagodas and temples and stuff. I was just going to make it myself, the Akaviri village. I figure if I can't have the freaking village myself, why don't I just build it? But then I was not skilled nearly enough to do this, and I kind of fell out of modding at that point, so I didn't want to do it. But yeah, that would have been the original Zelos and Kajido origin story. Funny enough, I haven't really changed the canon of the origin since canceling this movie. I have just made it a lot less complex, and hopefully you'll all get to see it at some point. I figured the ultimate irony would have been if I did that origin story for this video instead, but again, I don't want to make you guys wait, because then I'm not uploading other stuff, so why not just do a trivia series instead, and hopefully someone will enjoy it. I don't know. Anyone enjoying it so far? I guess you would be if you're still watching. Holy crap, this is going to be a long video. So, Wrath of Dawn, you can ask me more questions about that if you want me to be more specific, or ask questions on anything thus far or in the future, I don't know. Let's go to the next thing, before I, like, drive myself insane. There is a missing episode of Tales from Cyrodiil that you all could have had, I believe, last year for Valentine's Day is when I did this. What was basically going on is I was playing in my, like, just dinky two-person Minecraft server with Carnelia, the person who voices Sheevan Snow, and I said, hey, you know what? I would like to write a Tales episode right now, and so I did. I wrote a Tales episode about, so Zelos and Sheevan are having a picnic in the forest near Ancient Towers, and Kajido stumbles upon them and says, ah, there's Zelos, let's finally kill him, and stuff like that. So, pretty typical plot, they go to kill Zelos. Zelos says no. Going to have Benji and Tyron get into an argument over who gets a cupcake. Cleon and Captain Blue join the argument. They get into a fight with Benji and Tyron. Kajido, meanwhile, tries to open a dark vortex to banish Zelos Phoenix to another dimension. Zelos fights back, though, makes his own comeback, and sends Kajido into the vortex instead. Benji and Tyron get sent in there for good measure. And they pop out in the Skyward Sword world of Hyrule, where Kajido claims that he's going to get revenge on Zelos as usual. At that time, Link and Fi start to run by, and Link crashes into Kajido and ends up running off with Kajido's unholy sword. In the meantime, Kajido gets Link's Master Sword. But now, because Kajido has the Master Sword, he is the master of Fi. So Fi now starts treating Kajido as her master. And Kajido soon realizes that he has been completely had, and that Link just doesn't want the sword or Fi, so he purposely crashed into Kajido to switch swords. And that would have been the end of that episode, basically. Zelos and Sheevan just go back to their picnic. Kajido vows to get his unholy sword back from Link, and Tyron and Benji are goofs as usual. That is about how this would have gone. So I finished writing this episode, and I was going to give the book to Carnelia so she could read it and have a good time. Then I was going to read it for you guys on the channel. And then for some reason it just disappeared from my inventory in Minecraft. I have no idea what happened to this book. It is gone. And so I got very pissed off, because as you all know, I don't like doing things twice, and I was especially demotivated to do it again. So I did not do it again, basically. So that is the missing episode of Tales from Cyrodiil. It would have been, is Kajido getting tricked into holding the Master Sword, basically, because Link doesn't want to have to listen to Fi anymore. Fantastic. So those are my, like, I guess that's kind of my mini-series of episodes that are missing, or they were cancelled, or they had to be moved for whatever reason. Things happened. So now I guess a question I could get out of the way is, well, what happened to Tales from Skyrim? Back out of the game so I can read stuff, but anyway, so long story short, Tales from Skyrim got completely just cut. I didn't want to do it. I hated the Skyrim modding community. I wanted nothing to do with it. And of course, when Steam did that weird thing where I had to uninstall it, and it subsequently uninstalled all my games and mods, I just did not want to bother reinstalling Skyrim, so Skyrim's pretty much dead, sorry, but I just do not want to redo any of that. But when I did, I had an actual transition planned for Tales from Skyrim. Basically, the idea, two ideas I had is that, number one, Zelos and them would have been freely able to jump between the two games as like a part of a time machine thing. So like in one episode, Cyrodiil basically decides to go to the future, try to get technology from the future to go back to the past and beat Zelos with it. Then Zelos, Cleon, and them all realize, hey, if Cyrodiil can do it, we can do it better. And so they follow him into Skyrim, and basically the feud just continues, where they have hijinks that can happen in either Oblivion and Skyrim. The advantage of this series would have been, if I wanted to go back to Oblivion at any time, I could have just had another episode in Oblivion, and if I wanted to have an episode in Skyrim, I could have had an episode in Skyrim. If I wanted to go straight through Oblivion, finished an Oblivion series, and then go to a Skyrim series, the idea I had is very simple, is that just Zelos and Cyrodiil, they both have kids who meet each other in Tales from Skyrim, and they continue the lineage of feuds, basically. Very similar to, again, Link and Ganondorf, as a lot of my stuff has references in it. So, hooray for me. I was actually going to start the transition for this pretty early in the series, by which I mean Tales 12, so I know we're up to 14 as I've uploaded this video, but in Tales 12 I was going to start this illusion. Zelos and Cyrodiil were going to eventually have offspring and fight each other again in spirit in Skyrim. Basically, the opening to 12, where they do Market Day, was just going to be very slightly different, so I'll just go ahead and read, I guess, this rendition of the Tales 12 opening. So here we go, I don't know. Okay, Cyrodiil, Benji, and Tyron are in the Imperial Palace's second-floor chamber. Oh, what's wrong with you today? Oh, nothing. I was just thinking, who will carry on the fight when Zelos and I have passed away? Huh, I didn't realize you could be reflective. Oh, shut up. Somebody has to carry on our great legacy. Well, mine's great. Zelos's sucks, clearly. If you're worried about that, maybe you should, Of course! Why didn't I think of it sooner? I need a girlfriend. A what? A girlfriend, you idiot! Say girl. Girl. Now say girlfriend. Girlfriend. Never mind. But you know you aren't exactly poppy with the ladies, or, anyone. Nah, I don't get it. I sent my tapes in and everything, but nobody responded to my profile. Well, maybe it'd help if you didn't wear that mask. I have a good reason for wearing this. Tyron proceeds to stare at him as Cyrodiil does not, in fact, explain why he has the mask on. This would also be a rib on myself for not doing the Wrath of Dawn video, conveniently enough, we just talked about. Benji walks in. Hey guys, what's up? Shut up, Benji! Anyway, they discriminate against masks. It's not fair. Well, if you hadn't changed Benji's model... Cyrodiil fires a nuclear blast at him. I hate everybody. There's the Tales opening. So what now, Master Cyrodiil? Nya, we need to eliminate Zelos Phoenix and make sure he doesn't get his hands on any of the artifacts. I've devised the perfect strategy. And Market Day kind of goes on from here. So that is how I would have started the kind of the hint that I was doing a Tales from Skyrim, is that Cyrodiil actually starts to care about an offspring and kin and stuff like that. And then, of course, the similar holds true for Zelos. So the thing I didn't really like about any of this is that if I did this offspring version, it wouldn't make sense for there to be a corresponding Shivan Snow, like in Skyrim, because that'd be kind of weird. If Zelos and Shivan are supposed to be the ones getting together, why would there be another Zelos and Shivan in the future, like falling in love? So that one didn't settle right with me. It was also kind of hard to explain how, like, it just seemed too convenient to me that just another Cleon, another Captain Blue, and so on and so forth, they'd all just miraculously meet the new Zelos and the new Shivan and keep going with that. So yeah, also, the crappy voice rating is because my throat's not agreeing with me right now. So yeah, Tyron probably sounded terrible. Incidentally, for like a random 26th fact, is Tyron's voice is the hardest to do. So I don't know. All right, that's it, I guess. So that's where Tales from Skyrim kind of vanished to. That's where my missing episodes went. Now let's talk about my missing mod. For this one, we gotta show up at old Dive Rock. Some of you may remember my very first video ever, where I was somewhere here on Dive Rock. I can never remember the exact spot. I was wearing the white robes and everything, and I was headed on over here to like some hatch, some doorway that I had made or something, and I was building a very large temple. That was part of a mod called Yori's Ways. Where I was basically going to have the player aid Zelos Phoenix in a struggle against Kajido Nolan and two groups of warriors, one called the White Rose Saviors and the other called the Red Rose Saints, so more War of the Rose references and Tales from Cyrodiil stuff. The player had to aid one of those two factions and ultimately decide whether they sided with Zelos or Kajido at the very end of the mod. In this mod, some of you might remember I showed off Yori's Ways a long time ago. The inspiration for that was, of course, Impa's Ways from Legend of Zelda Parallel Worlds, a ROM hack for A Link to the Past. It's going to be this giant labyrinth of a place, and have various trials in it. Like, I remember I had a trial of strength, a trial of wisdom, a trial of courage, so more Zelda references there and stuff. Eventually you would meet the old sage Yori, who is an elderly woman who would give you a special staff that you could use to banish one of the White Rose Saviors or the Red Rose Saints. Oh, is it right here? It's like somewhere up here, I bet. I bet it is. I'll have to look back at the old video and find it now. But yeah, the mod itself was going to be rather large. Yori's Ways is actually just a very small component of this underworld that I had planned for beneath this mountain. I realized, dang, man, the freaking Jarrell Mountains are huge here. In fact, I can't remember if... I'm sure these are still the Jarrell Mountains. Yeah, there it is, okay. The Jarrell Mountains are huge. I bet you could fit an entire world below them. And so that was basically the idea, is that you go into this completely underground world where these two factions exist, and they've been feuding for the whole time. Zelos happens to stumble upon the White Rose Saviors and wants to help them. Kajido stumbles upon the Red Rose Saints and wants to help them. And so you make the choice, and the other one hates you forever and ever and ever. I never finished the mod. Obviously, I also can't say the word obviously. But anyway, never finished the mod. I fell out of modding at one point. I thought it was way too much work for one person to be doing. And I wanted to do other things, like build my Zelda Classic games, actually do my Tales from Cyrodiil series and stuff. So I just ended up canceling this mod, but... yeah, the mod with Yori's Ways in it was going to be quite a thing for Tales. The other thing I didn't really like is that while I was going to... like, it would have made sense in context and everything, but I didn't really have a good way for the player themselves to, like, fit in. The story was really about Zelos and Kajido helping their factions along, and I didn't have a good way to shoehorn the player in, other than this, like, staff that Yori gives you, just to kind of make you important. But since I can't really just start telling people to, like, download my save file and play this file as Zelos or Kajido or something, I don't know, that one didn't settle right with me as well, so I kind of grew out of the modding phase. Especially when you'd get crap on the construction set where you'd just do like a whole day's worth of work, and then I don't think the file ever got corrupted on me, but it would just sometimes randomly crash after doing something complicated, and it was, I don't know, it didn't agree with my machine maybe, so I was just unmotivated to do it. I had no reason to do it. I didn't have any voice actors or actresses at the time, so I wasn't all that hype about doing that either, so I don't know. It probably could have been fun if I had a team or something at the time, pun intended, of course. But I did not, so there's that. Yori's Ways, everyone. The mod itself, I don't remember if I gave it a name. I got no clue. So let's talk about Kurt Angle's illegal weapon emporium. Now, some of you may recognize Cleon's illegal weapon emporium and casino from Tales Episode 3. Well, in fact, that originally did not belong to Cleon. In fact, it had nothing to do with Tales from Cyrodiil, because I had not even played Oblivion yet when I came up with this illegal weapon emporium idea. Basically, one of my favorite wrestlers in early 2004 was Kurt Angle, and he was feuding with a wrestler named Eddie Guerrero at the time. So sometimes when I would play StarCraft Brood War, I would go online and find these servers for what was it called? Urban RP. It was a role-playing server where you basically played in an urban setting and you did whatever you wanted with other players. So whenever I would go onto one of these urban RP servers, I would play as a mobster that I called Kurt Angle. For some reason, I made Kurt Angle a mobster. I don't know why, though. If you know what the main event Mafia is, it's pretty darn hilarious. That showed up a couple of years later. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So I would play Kurt Angle as an illegal mobster who wants nothing more than to run an illegal weapon emporium from across the police station. And in order to do this, he is going to, he's going to corrupt the world and stuff and other things like that. So you don't need much backstory there. However, later in 2004, which is where the story is going, I actually have a commercial, a very poorly done commercial for this weapon emporium on record. I have audio for this that I'm going to play for you in just a bit. My friend Jay and I, so you know, some of you may know Jay, the Vice Lord of the UDF, we got really bored one night when we were at his house, and we decided to record Jay reading some of his stories that he had written while he was bored in high school. Mostly they were just really stupid Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan fictions that had nothing to do with anything. They're just completely, random references and whatever. So during this particular one called Escape from Alcatraz, the Shadow Realm, the error there is intentional, by the way, that was part of the title, we decided to do a bunch of random skits in addition to him reading his story. One such skit that we did was me doing a Kurt Angle's illegal weapon emporium commercial. So I'm going to play this clip for you. A couple things to note about the clip is, number one, I'm going to be swearing in it. I do not say the F-bomb. The F-bomb that you'll hear in the clip is J. I do say some other swear words, though, so if you're not used to me swearing, you may want to skip ahead or be prepared or whatever. And remember, this was like 2004, so I was 11 years younger than what I am right now, basically. So I was still just a little whelp teenager thinking that swearing was funny, basically. I will also note, this is very cringeworthy. It is just clear that we did no rehearsal for this. I'm stumbling over my words all the time. It's just completely cringeworthy. But let's go ahead and hear the original Kurt Angle's illegal weapon emporium commercial.
Now for an interlude.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kurt Angle. I am a former four-time WWE champion. But I've retired from the wrestling business so I can go on to live my dream, running an illegal weapon emporium. So, ladies and gentlemen, would you like to see Kurt Angle's weapon emporium? I don't give a flying want to see it or not, because I'm going to tell you about it anyway. Now, if you're a cop and you're watching this commercial, we have provided a dancing donut on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen to distract you, or entertain you. No, distract sounds better. During this commercial. And now, the commercial. Hi, I'm Kurt Angle. Shit, I did this part. Fuck. Yes. Come to Kurt Angle's illegal weapon emporium. Yes, I said illegal. Ha 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 ha. You can't do anything because you're watching the donut, you little fat bastards. Anyway, come to Kurt Angle's illegal weapon emporium. We supply everything you could ever have wanted. An Eddie Guerrero lowrider, a nuclear warhead, an AK-47, a B-52 bomber, and other various non-legal weaponry.
Yes, not legal.
Ah, it's a mysterious man. Oh, it's one of our best customers, Jay Lacasio.
Yes, I have come for my katanas.
Yes, and I am sure that his name will be edited out of this commercial in case one of the cops is already eating a donut and does not wish to look at ours displayed on the bottom left-hand screen. And here are your katanas, Mr. Lacasio. And as usual, the pay will be as usual, yes. Come to the store to check prices. So yes, come to Kurt Angle's illegal weapon emporium, located across the street from the police station.
Nice katana.
Okay, so if you're still watching after that disaster of a clip, let's go on to voice origins for certain characters. Let's talk about Cyrodiil Nolan, because obviously Zelos Phoenix is just my own voice, just sounding a little more serious and like he's had enough of the crap of the world. Actually, Zelos Phoenix is just me, isn't he? Well, dang. Anyway, Cyrodiil Nolan's voice actually comes from someone named Teamudf in the Mega Man Legends series. Teamudf was... oh, for the longest freaking time, this guy was my favorite villain of anything ever. This was just fantastic. He was so corny, so hammy, just so much jankiness. But it was so good. It was so freaking good. The voice was just amazing. The character motivation was amazing. And so, as I would go on and do like little goofy RPs with my friends or come up with my own stories and just voice act them silently to myself, I would slowly try to copy Teamudf's voice. And what I ended up with was a very twisted version that would go on to be the great Cyrodiil Nolan's voice. On the other hand, some people might want to know where Cleon's voice came from. Immortality and greatness. For you see, actually, Cleon's voice isn't as obvious as you might think. Even though Cleon was part of another mod, Tears of the Fiend, the voice that I used for him actually originates from my 12th grade English class. We would read Hamlet, and my classmates and I would, we would volunteer for like parts in the play to read, and our instructor would basically have us read the story aloud in class like that. About halfway through this story, I realized that people in my 12th grade English class, like, really sucked at reading. Like, I don't mean that to say that they weren't intelligent, it's just, they had no good sense of, like, I don't know, acting or reading lines or whatever. They were just completely boring as they read. So, I decided to volunteer for the part of Laertes, and I decided to use a voice that was meant to be a parody of Yami Yugi from Yu-Gi-Oh! So... Yu-Gi-Oh! That whole thing. And then his voice becomes much deeper, and he's much more serious about the task at hand. But you see, what I got wasn't really a voice involving Yu-Gi-Oh!, but it was more kind of a snooty British accent that my instructor very much enjoyed. And in fact, when Teamudf was given the... oh god, what was it called in that grade? I think it was just the... it wasn't distinguished. Well, it was like the top student of the class for that English course, basically. When he gave me that award, he particularly referenced my killer British accent, as he would say. And so, from that point on, I had to try to remember the voice, because Mr. Wright was just one of my favorite English teachers ever. In fact, I would dare say he still is my favorite English teacher ever. There was a good one in college, but Mr. Wright was freaking awesome. So anyway... I managed to remember the voice of that snooty Englishman that I did for him when I played Laertes as, or in the Hamlet book. And it just became Cleon afterwards, because as I was going through Tears of the Fiend, I thought, man, Cleon's character would, like, so fit this voice. And so I did. Also, kind of a note for Tales Universe, when, Leon comes around, I decided to call him Leonhart Wright. In memory of a great mathematician, and of course my favorite English teacher ever. Incidentally, Mr. Wright had a wife who taught math, and so Leon Hart actually doubles as like a double, I don't know. Anyway, so Captain Blue's voice is up next, because it's probably, I don't know, probably everyone's favorite voice to hear. And if it's not, screw you, because I don't know. You don't tell me these things. But anyway, Captain Blue's voice kinda actually came at random. One day I was watching Highlander. I know, it's, yeah. I have no better way to describe it. I was watching Highlander one day. Okay, so that's how this went. And later on, I was playing Sins of a Solar Empire. And in my boredom, while playing Sins of a Solar Empire, I came up with an admiral who wanted to turn the color of every ship in his fleet blue. And I just started saying random crap in my head that basically boiled down to this Highlander accent I was using. and I just called him Captain Blue. So, and that's how Captain Blue's name, character, and voice came to be. Is just me watching Highlander and playing Sins of the Solar Empire one day. And now he was going to destroy the enemy fleet! Let me see if I can do the original voice. Destroy the enemy fleet! I know it's not going to sound much different to you guys, but it sounds a bit different to me. That was the original Captain Blue voice, and I just made it a bit more goofy as, like, time progressed, and that is the character that you have all come to know and possibly love. I certainly know Captain Blue has to be one of the more popular characters. But yeah. That is how that came to be. Ah, there you are. Yes, I'm just killing everything with the console because I'm lazy. Shut up. Alright, so while we're doing voice origins, we might as well do, like, name and character origins as well.